Hey Hunters, Halozu here, back for more D&D 5.5 stuff, this time with the Sorcerer class. So, it's pretty simple. We're going to look at the various stuff that Sorcerers get. Not too much has changed. This class it's had a few additions, but probably one of the least changed classes by far. So, starting at first level, we have your Sorceress Bloodline, of course. You always had that at first level, and everyone else is now the same. You also get spell casting, which is pretty standard. So now you actually get a new feature called Spell Guard, which it's fairly simple, but hey, it's there. Second level, still get Font of Magic in your first 2 sorcery points, and sorcery points still just, you get an amount equal to your level. Pretty much, that's how they work. Third level is Metamagic in Bloodline feature. So, I think this is actually new. Yeah, this should be new. Yeah, it is. So, once again, all classes kind of get similar, or at least the same sort of archetype progression that other classes get. So sorcerers get base class progression, which doesn't change them too much, but here it is. Fourth level, you get magical guidance as well as a feat and ability score increase. And one thing you'll notice is that they tend to not have features at odd numbered levels. So you will actually get to see that 5th level, you get 3rd level spell slots, so you don't need a feature there, really, or at least as much. 6th level, you get Devastating Magic, a new feature, and a Bloodline feature as well. 7th level, you're getting 4th level spells now, so get anything. 8th level is Mystic Recovery, another new feature. 9th is when you get the 5th level spells, so nothing here. 10th is a Bloodline feature. And do note that you still get ability score increases in feats at 4, 8, 12, 16, and 19. That hadn't changed, but you may also get other stuff at certain levels. So 10th, Bloodline feature. 11th, 6th level spells. 12th, Inner Reserves, another new feature. 13th is going to be 8th level spells. 14th, Bloodline feature. 15th, 8th level spells. 16th is the Spell Surge ability. 17th, Sorceress Restoration. 18th is Metamagic Mastery. 19th is the last ASI and feat. 20th, Magic Incarnate and a Bloodline feature. You'll also notice that with Metamagic, you now get 2 Metamagic options each time you get it. So you begin with 2, then you get 4, then 6 to end with. So basically, you get a few more options with Metamagic is the idea. In addition, there is also the extra cantrip you get at 15th level. This is to kind of round out your arsenal a bit more, give you more options, make sure you have a lot of fun stuff. But anyway, let's go to the core features. So, HP only change is the add your con score to base HP, which should be an absolute godsend to sorcerers in particular, because my gosh, do they not get much HP. So yeah, the new minimum is now 14 from 5. So yeah, proficiencies, not too much changed here. You only get daggers, darts, quarterstaffs, and slings. No more light crossbows. Then again, it didn't really fit that well anyway, so You still get con charisma saves. Still pick 2 from Arcana, Deception, Insight, Intimidation, Nature, Persuasion, and Religion. Spellcasting. Still use Charisma. Still use Arcane Foci. Huh. That was odd. But, spell slots progress the same, so simple enough. So, Sorceress Origin. Get your Sorceress Origin. Spellcasting. See above. Spell Guard. You get +1 AC against spell attacks and +1 against spell saves. So, basically, you're better at defending yourself from enemies' magic. It's simple enough. Font of Magic at 2nd level. Pretty much works like it did before. You can use sorcery points to make spell slots or use spell slots to make sorcery points. It's simple as ever. So, 3rd level, you have Metamagic. And so Metamagic actually will allow you to get to magic stuff. Same as before. 4th level, Magical Guidance. When you roll a skill or tool check, you can spend 1 sorcery point to re-roll it and use the new results. Devastating Magic. Add Charisma to the damage and healing rolls of your spells. Eighth level is Mystic Recovery. So as a standard action, you can spend 1 sorcery point and expend a hit dice to regain D6 plus Charisma HP. So basically just a simple self-heal that you can get. 12th level, Inner Reserves. Whenever you take a short rest, you regain 2 levels worth of spell slots. At 17th level, you get 4 levels worth of spell slots back. So basically some minor spell recovery. 16th, at Spell Surge. When you're at 0 HP or less, you can cast a standard action spell as a free action. After you use this feature, can't be used again until you finish a long rest. So, yeah, this has some shenanigans. So basically, you can cast any standard action spell. And the Divine Soul, yeah, that's going to be powerful. But the idea is kind of be like a fun, like, final breath type deal. 17th level, Sorceress Restoration. When you take a short rest, you can regain 4 sorcery points. So you can do some more Metamagic or get some more spells. 18th, Metamagic Mastery. The first Metamagic option you use on a spell costs 1 sorcery point less, meaning you can now do more sorcery point stuff, like more Metamagic with your spells. And 20th level, Magic Incarnate. When you cast a spell 1st level or higher, treat it as if it was cast 1 level higher. This does mean you can cast spells as if they're 10th level. So yeah. And your damaging cantrips deal plus proc damage. So basically your spells all become more powerful as you just always cast at higher levels. And then we go over to the Sorceress Origins. So we got Dragon Magic to start with, which begins with Draconic Resilience, Draconic Ancestry, and Dragon's Magic, a new feature, which also appears in base 5e for Tarkir, but it's just a simple change. It's like, yeah, you get some stuff. 3rd level, Elemental Breath. 6th, Elemental Affinity. 10, Draconic Form. 14, Draconic Wings. And 20, Draconic Presence. So, Draconic Resilience at first level, pretty much the same as before. +1 HP max per level, but also you now add plus strength to your AC while unarmored. So rather than give a flat blank plus dex, it's instead plus strength. So if you are, say, a race that gets natural armor, you add your strength to that natural armor. If you don't, and you're just adding your dexterity as normal, then it's your strength plus your dexterity modifier. A very simple way to buff your AC, but it's there. Draconic Ancestry. You learn Draconic and choose Dragon Ancestor. That will affect certain features you get later. So these are pretty much the same as you'd expect, but there is the Breath shape. That's used for Elemental Breath down below. So basically it's either a line or a cone. Dragon's Magic, the new feature. And also notice that the gem dragons are brought over to this, because why not? So, you learn the Chromatic Orb first level spell, which you can cast without the material component. If you do so, you can only choose to deal the damage type of your Dragon Ancestor. If that spell, if Chromatic Orb doesn't normally do that damage type, such as if, for the most part, if you're a gem dragon ancestry, then you add Chromatic Orb, that damage type to Chromatic Orb. And as a side note, that is always available. So if you're like a Crystal Dragon Sorcerer, then your Chromatic Orb can always do radiant damage. Third level, you learn the Dragon's Breath second level spell, which works the same way. So basically, you can cast it without material component, but have to choose your Dragon Ancestor's damage type. And if that damage type isn't normally on its list, then you add it to its list whenever you cast it in general. It still requires spell slots, but you just ignore the material component cost. Third level, Elemental Breath. Standard action, you can unleash a breath weapon in either 15-foot cone or 30-foot line, as determined by the breath shape of your ancestor. Each creature inside must make a dex save against your spell save DC. Take 3d6 plus strength damage of your ancestor's damage type, half on a success, and recharges with a short rest. You can use this for Metamagic, and it counts as a first level spell. So whenever cantrips upgrade, this damage upgrades by 1d6. So it gets 46 at 5th level, 5d6 at 11th, 66 at 17th, and at 11th level, the area is doubled. 6th level, Elemental Affinity. Gain resistance to your ancestor's damage type. And whenever you deal damage of that type, treat immunities like resistances normally are, and ignore resistances. 10th level, Draconic Form. Once per day, you can spend 5 sorcery points as a bonus action to assume a Draconic Form for a number of minutes equal to half your sorcerer level. Stats aren't listed here, but basically it's standard dragon stuff. And I think I'm going to have it work pretty much like Wild Shape does to an extent. Haven't fully completed it, but it's basically like, hey, you become a dragon temporarily. 14th, you get Draconic Wings, giving you fly speed equals your walking speed. As a move action, you can spend 2 sorcery points to fly twice your speed. So you get a burst of speed out. So it's actually a permanent set of wings, by the way. 20th level, Draconic Presence. Plus strength extra damage on damage rolls of your Dragon Ancestor's damage type. Standard action, you spend 4 sorcery points to enter the Draconic Presence for a minute. 30-foot aura. And enemies have to make a whiz save or be frightened of you. Yeah, not much, but hey, you're a spellcaster. You get awesome stuff starting at 17th level. Anyway, so yeah. Wild magic. Yeah, this one works a lot different. So, first level, we got Wild Magic Surge, Tides of Chaos, and Chaotic Magic. We also have Surging Chaos at 3rd, Bend Luck at 6th, Power Chaos at 10th, Controlled Chaos at 14th, and Spell Bombardment at 20th. So, Wild Magic Surge. So, to start off with, Wild Magic Surge now works very differently. It's not, oh, when you roll a certain number on a dice, then you roll another dice to see if you Wild Magic Surge. Instead, it's like, oh no. You get these things called Wild Surge points when certain things happen. So if you roll a natural 1 or 2 on a d20, then you gain 1 Wild Surge point. When you get a nat 20, then you gain or lose 1 Wild Surge point. Whenever you're critically hit or become bloodied, you lose 1 Wild Surge point. And whenever you have 6 or more Wild Surge points, you lose all Wild Surge points and immediately roll on the Wild Magic Surge table. So basically, the idea is you have this building surge, so to speak. And I'm actually going to add whenever you take a long rest, you also lose 1 Wild Surge point. So basically, it's sort of like a building thing that's like, eventually this will happen. And there's actually ways of getting these to happen more often, such as Tides of Chaos. When you roll an attack roll, skill or tool check or saving throw, basically whenever you roll a d20, you can gain 1 Wild Surge point to add plus dex to the roll. Chaotic Magic, you learn the Chaos Bolt's 1st level spell, and whenever it damages a creature, you can gain 1 Wild Surge point to make it act as if you roll the same number on the d8. So basically, you can gain Wild Surge points to make your Chaos Bolt bounce. Because why not play with it? Play with fire even more. And why not get guaranteed procs of that? 3rd, Surging Chaos. Whenever you deal damage, you deal extra damage equal to your current Wild Surge point value. Basically, the more Wild Surge points you have, the more damage your spells do. But the closer you are to accidentally getting a Wild Surge to backfire on you. 6th level, Bend Luck. Whenever a creature you see rolls a d20, you can add plus dex or minus dex to the roll and gain 1 Wild Surge point. So basically, you can manipulate luck, but tempt fate of your Wild Magic Surge. Power of Chaos. All damage taken is reduced by an amount equal to your Wild Surge points. So you get damage reduction and damage increase. Fourteenth level, Controlled Chaos. You can also gain or lose 1 Wild Surge point when you roll in that 19 on a d20. And whenever you trigger a Wild Magic Surge, roll twice to determine the effect. If both are the same, choose the effect you want to trigger instead. 20th, Spell Bombardment. Once per turn, re-roll the minimum or maximum roll on a damage dice. Re-roll it and add it both the original and new rolls to the damage. So, pretty much the same, just making your spells even crazier. So, hopefully this kind of addresses the problem where Wild Magic Surge can happen more often, And somewhat more predictably, with a sort of risk/reward type gameplay added on to boot. Last but not least, we have my favorite, Storm Magic. So we only get Wind Speaker and Tempestuous Magic at first level, Storm's Power at 3rd, Storm Guide and Heart of the Storm at 6th, Wind Soul at 10th, Storm's Fury at 14th, and Might of the Storm at 20th. Wind Speaker, learn Primordial and Gust. Tempestuous Magic. Whenever you cast a spell first level or higher, can fly 10 feet without provoking opportunity attacks before or after casting the spell. I'm going to add on your turn. Storm's Power. Spells treat lightning and thunder immunities as resistances normally are, and ignore normal lightning and thunder resistances, and you have resistance to lightning and thunder damage. Simple, but effective. 6th level Storm Guide works exactly the same as it did before. You can make rain stop falling, or direct the wind. Heart of the Storm. This one changed a bit. So, when you cast a first level or higher that deals lightning or thunder damage, choose yourself or a creature targeted by the spell. Each creature of your choice in 10 feet of them takes Dex plus Charisma damage of the type the triggering spell deals. So, basically, if you do a lightning spell, it's thunder, it's lightning, or if it's a thunder spell, it's thunder damage. Also, this can work on the target, not just yourself. You are no longer pigeonholed into being a melee caster or short-range caster, and instead can be a mid-range or long-range caster if you want. 10th level, Wind Soul. You gain a fly speed equal to your walking speed. You can use a bonus action and spend 4 sorcery points to grant 3+ Dex creatures of your choice in 30 feet. A flying speed equal to their walking speeds for 1 hour. Once you grant flying speed this way, finish a long rest before doing so again. Storm's Fury at 14th level. When you're hit by a melee attack, you can use reaction to deal D12 plus Dex plus Charisma, Lightning, and Thunder damage. And the target must make a strength save or be pushed 20 feet away, 10 feet on a success. So, basically you damage and push creatures away when they hit you as a reaction. Might of the Storm. Whenever you deal lightning or thunder damage, deal plus D12 extra damage. And your flying speed and the fly distance of Tempestuous Magic are doubled. So, Wind Soul gives you double your walking speed as a fly speed. And Tempestuous Magic now flies 20 feet instead of 10. So, some neat buffs all around. Some of it's kind of simple, but hey, you got a lot of cool spells. Speaking of which, yeah, there's a lot of new stuff added here. So, let's begin this joyous thing. So we begin with the cantrips. The new and 5e cantrips include Sandlash, which is... I'm actually, for the sake of time, not even going to talk about the new and 5e stuff. Instead, we're going to talk about the errata. Eldritch Blast. No longer the exclusive domain of Warlocks, and it gives force damage options to everyone. And an option for power gamers, should they so choose it. But it doesn't really do as much on occasion. Primal Savagery, a spell that kind of fit Sorcerer thematically that they don't have normally. It's added in, and also adds a new acid option for players. Produce Flame, mostly wanted to break the exclusivity, and it kind of feels appropriate that they get a utility and damage spell. Then they actually ended up getting pretty much all of the new cantrips. Yeah. I think that's... Yeah. Yeah, they did. Anyway, so we got Bone Talon, which is sort of like a new necromancy projectile spell. It's kind of intended to be a pretty basic damage spell, but hey, it's there. Electric Bolt. Simple, like single target zap spell. Simple enough for lightning damage. Energy Ward. Blade Ward, but energy damage types rather than physical. Frozen Slash is a cold blade spell that slows. Kinetic Lance is actually a fun new spell. Basically, it's a cantrip that deals a line of force damage. Phantom Blade. You summon spectral daggers to fight with. That works as kind of like a mystical weapon of sorts. Poison Bolt. It's a bolt of poison that both deals direct damage and also deals damage on the target's next turn on hit. D4 for each, but hey, it's still pretty powerful for what it does. And it's both an attack roll and saving throw. Thunderburst. And it's also an actually good poison damage spell. Or cantrip. Thunderburst. Small AoE thunder damage at a range. Simple enough. Ward Strike. Strike a target with force. That's either and push them away from either you or an ally with a abjuration spell active on them. Or just anything with the active abjuration spell on them that you have. Wind Blast. Blast a wind that pushes people back and damages them lightly with bludgeoning. Simple enough. Up next, we got first level with Arms of Hadar. Armor of Agathis, Hellish Rebuke, and Hex. I kind of wanted to break the exclusivity from Warlock, and these also kind of fit the idea of potentially having darker magic for sorcerers. And they're kind of fun at times. Longstrider, you get jump normally, so you get its counterpart, Longstrider, as well. And Create and Destroy Water. Just kind of felt nice to have a fun utility spell that also makes sense for any water-associated sorcerers. As for the new spells, they once again get almost all of the new ones. Yeah, I definitely had a bias towards making stuff that ended up fitting Sorcerer really well, so, well, that's just what it is, you know? So, anticipate divination damage spell that also helps you protect yourself from the target. Chill Strike. Icy projectile that freezes an enemy and slows them down. Earth Spike. Big piercing spike of earth that is single target, does pretty hefty damage, and deals half damage on a miss. Lightning Strike. Basically a like individual call lightning bolt comes down, and it actually stacks with those. So if you cast this spell while a call lightning's active, then you actually not only do you actually do that spell, it also counts as the action for call lightning. Mage Sword, summon a long sword made of force that you can use to attack. Simple enough. Mind Blast. Blast nearby foes with psychic energy. Soul Strike. Sacrifice some of your own health to deal massive damage to an enemy target. Summon Sentinel Spirits. Summon a mystical being of magic that helps fight and protect you. Fight for and protect. Yeah. And Sunblast is kind of like the new low-level sun spell that is just a simple cone of blinding light. Yeah, simple enough. Second level, the errata spells include Melf's Acid Arrow and Ray of Enfeeblement, 2 spells that you were lacking for some reason. It's kind of odd that you didn't get Acid Arrow, honestly. It's like, wait, what? And Ray of Enfeeblement similar, but it's also like, okay. I don't see any reason to not have them, but okay. As for the new in 5.5, we have Arcane Mines, which is you basically scatter these force mines that explode if an enemy steps on them. Elemental Wisp, which summons this elemental wisp that stays around you. Buffs your ability to do damage of certain damage types, or elemental damage types specifically, and has a little projectile attack it can use. Life Drain. Steal the health of your enemy with a single spell cast. Mage Bow. Mage Sword with a long bow. Basically. And it has infinite ammo, by the way. Ward Burst. Kind of an upgraded Ward Strike, where you cause an Abjuration spell's ward to explode, pushing away enemies around them or yourself, as well as giving them some light force damage. Also, as a side note for Ward Burst and Ward Strike, these 2 spells have been added over to Cleric and Bard. So most spellcasters have these 2 spells now. And the reason for that is they just make a lot of sense with Cleric because they have the best spell to use it with. But others can potentially use them as well. Then there is also, at 3rd level, Call Lightning. No longer exclusive to druids. It's just it's a big storm spell that you can use to rain lightning upon your opponents, taking up your actions. So, yeah. Hunger of Hadar. Breaks exclusivity from Warlock and gives you another AoE damage and control spell that's actually pretty powerful. Meld into Stone, Wall of Sand, and Wind. And also note Wall of Wind is actually renamed Wind Wall. However, it's been renamed to make sense and match the other similar spells. So, yeah. And these 3 are just like, hey, here's some fun stuff to add to your arsenal that makes sense for certain sorcerers to have. Like, why not get Wall of Wind as a Storm Sorcerer? Which actually reminds me, you do actually learn more spells at certain levels. You start with 3, and then you get 2 every time you get a new level until the high level stuff. Now then, the new in 5.5 stuff for 3rd level. Yeah, so we begin with Bone Spear, which is basically a Necrotic Lightning Bolt in a way. Basically, it's a line that deals physical and necrotic damage. So, yeah. Simple enough. But, hey, it's a cool new necromancy spell that is themed around bones and such. Cold Snap. Big freeze on a target that freezes them in place and does pretty hefty cold damage. Kinetic Slam. Massive Blast of Force that deals pretty hefty damage at 4d12 and also pushes the target up to 20 feet away, or at least up to 10. Mind Bomb is just a kind of psychic fireball in a way, but it is ally friendly. Phantom Barrage is an illusion combat spell that just is a big cylinder of illusionary arrows that damage your opponents. And Sunbolts, a big ranged spell attack that deals pretty good damage, and it still damages on a miss as well, and it's radiant damage that also blinds the target. Kind of a intermediate sun spell of sorts. Then we go over to 4th level. So the errata spells, conjure minor elementals and summon elemental. Why not give sorcerers the ability to create elementals if they want to? Kind of adds to their utility, and some sorcerers in particular will like this, especially Storm sorcerers. Control water is here, because once again it kind of makes sense for some. As well as Stone Shape. Both of those are like, you have some elementally inclined sorcerers. So here's some ways of doing elemental manipulation. Elemental Bane, and unfortunately exclusive spell to several classes. And now you can utilize this amazing spell that really works well with some builds. Ivard's Black Tentacles, meanwhile, is here mostly to kind of like change things up a bit, but it's just a spell that I think can be kind of cool sometimes to have. And it doesn't hurt to have more dark magic options, should you want them. As for the new spells, we got Phantom Chasm, which is just a big AoE illusion spell that makes foes think they're falling. And then Soul Burst, which you sacrifice some of your health to make a massive explosion of necrotic energy. So then we go up to 5th level. So Conjure Elementals here to kind of play into the idea that, hey, you can summon elementals now. Dawn is here to kind of add a new light spell at a higher level, while also being sort of a... You had a lot of other radiant damage options, so hey, here's one you were missing. Maelstrom is here because it's like, why do only druids get it? It's kind of a cool idea for a hydromancer-themed character, so if you want to make a water-themed sorcerer, here you go. Transmute Rock is like elemental manipulation, wall of force, because why not, really? As for Rare's Telepathic Bond, it's like, sometimes you have the power of the mind. So, hey, here's a unique new, like, mind-associated spell. And then Dream, it's available to literally everyone else, pretty much, so you get it as well. As for the new spells, Bone Shards, just spray a bunch of bone shards at enemies in front of you in a massive cone. Crushing Boulder, launch a boulder that crushes just about everything in front of you. Excise from Sight. Damage a target and make them an ally of your... or something invisible to it. Summon Guardian is a big mystical guardian that protects you. Pretty good. Thunderbolt Strike. Massive blast of thunder that pummels down a target while also having lightning in the middle. So it's kind of like an explosion that has lightning and a bunch of thunder. 7th level. Or no, this is 6th level. Bones of the Earth, Wall of Ice are both more utility elemental spells that you can get now. Primordial Ward. Sorcerers are often associated more heavily with the elemental disciplines, so hey, here's something that protects you against the elemental disciplines. Odo's Irresistible Dance is just a fun troll spell, so here you go. If you want to be a more manipulative sorcerer, have fun. Then, in the realm of the new spells, we have Arcane Barrage, which is basically a mass magic missile against targets in an area. Dancing Flames, which is an upgraded Burning Hands that burns everything in front of you that except the stuff you don't want to burn. So it's an ally-friendly Burning Hands. Earthen Shards launches multiple stony projectiles that impale your target. And Phantasmal Army is the new Phantasmal spell that is just a mass Phantasmal force of sorts. So we then move up to 7th level, and this is actually 7th level, where we have Force Cage, Mordenkainen's Sword, and Simulacrum, which are just some nice utility spells that fit into the arcane and can help your sorcerer do stuff in combat and kind of go more into the high magic if you want to. Dominate Crowd for the new spells is just a mass dominate person, or mass dominate of some sort. Gravitic Slam. Lift your target up and slam them into the ground for force damage. That is pretty hefty. And knocks prone as well. Thunderburst. Big Thunder Explosion. And that one's actually going to be renamed a bit. I don't know. True Shield. Basically, actually negate an attack outright. And turn a hit into a miss automatically. As for these, 8th level, Errata spells. We have Animal Shapes, which is just, kind of an advanced polymorph spell that can be kind of fun at times. And you have a lot of other polymorph shenanigans. Not supposed to be true polymorph. Anyway, so we also have Maze, which is just a high magic spell of sorts. Kind of adds to what utility, and it's kind of a banishment on steroids in a way. Maddening Darkness and Tsunami, meanwhile, are kind of like adding to the arsenal of combat spells. While Telepathy is just like, a simple but powerful arcane style spell that lets you use the power of your mind, which can kind of fit with sorcerers to an extent. As for the new spells at 8th level, Charged Bolts, which is Delayed Blast Lightning Bolt. Simple enough. Elemental Ascension. Just all the investitures wrapped into one, pretty much. And Mirrored Phantom, which is the ultimate phantasmal spell. I might actually rename this Phantasmal Mirror. But basically, summons a copy of the target that does what it does. As for 9th level, we have a bunch. Astral Projection, because you're one of the only I think you're actually the only caster who didn't get it besides Druid, I think. Invulnerability, because why not gain the ability to become invulnerable? True Polymorph, because you got other polymorph stuff, so you get this one. Though I think you might be supposed to get True Polymorph instead, but I don't know. I accidentally put both as mass. Prismatic Wall. You get Prismatic Spray, so you get Prismatic Wall as well. Because why not? Shape Change. Big Transmutation spell. get a lot of other polymorph stuff, so here's this as well. Weird, powerful illusion spell for combat, so here you go. And Storm of Vengeance, because breaking exclusivity from Druid, and also giving a massive sort of storm-based spell that Storm Sorcerers definitely could have used in the past, because it's awesome. And it's actually a perfect fit for them too, but they don't get it normally. As for the new spells, Acidic Surge, massive wave of acid damage, Dreamscape, sort of trap a target in their vision of their dreams, Glacial Surge, just a massive sheet of ice, freezes a bunch of stuff at once, and Magic Missile Storm, just unleash a torrent of magic missiles at everyone nearby. Keep in mind, it actually doesn't shoot as many as Arcane Barrage will, or even Magic Missile at this level, but you will actually get a storm of magic missiles at everyone nearby, or everyone you designate nearby. So that's the new spells, minus the new to 5e spells, just because there's so freaking many. So many. Because once again, they got almost all of the cantrips. So, Metamagic. So these have kind of changed a bit. So you still have the base ones, such as Careful Spell, Distant Spell, which actually, Distant Spell has been changed a bit. So if a spell's range is 30 feet or less, its range becomes 30 feet. Otherwise, double the range. So this does mean stuff like Poison Spray can end up with a range of 30 feet instead of being doubled to 20 feet. It's just a way of saying, hey, spells that don't have a range of 30 feet or more just become 30-foot range. Empowered Spell. Very simple change, but it's that you now actually get to choose healing dice as well by default. So if there's a healing spell, you can re-roll it. Extended Spell, double spell's duration, and the spell targeted must have a duration of at least 1 round or longer. Distant Spell can't be used on spells of the range itself. Heightened Spell. Quick change to this is that it can be used with other metamagics. Can also be used multiple times on the same spell, but can only force each target to reroll once. And it's still just... And also, this is also changed to not be it has disadvantage. It's like, oh no, you re-roll it without advantage or disadvantage and use the new result. Quicken Spell now costs 3. And you cast a standard action spell as a bonus action, cast a bonus action spell or reaction spell as a free action, or cast a spell that doesn't use one of those in half the time, so it's got a bit more utility. And if it's used on a bonus action spell, first level or higher, you can cast another spell that turn. The first level or higher. And you can only quicken spell once per turn. Subtle Spell. Cast a spell without verbal or somatic components. Twin Spell. Cost is the same, but it's listed as 1, plus an additional sorcery point for each level of the spell above first. And you just target an additional creature with the spell. And the spell has to have a range that is itself and only affect one creature at a time. Seeking Spell. Choose a spell attack roll and re-roll it using the new results. This can be used with other metamagics and can be utilized multiple times on the same spell, but can only re-roll a single attack roll once. Basically, this just works with Eldritch Blast, and you can use this multiple times on Eldritch Blast and Scorching Rays. One per each attack roll. Transmuted spell. Choose a damage type that the spell deals. You swap that damage type with another damage type dealt by a different spell or cantrip you know that isn't already dealt by the spell. And this can be used with other metamagics now, and can be used multiple times on a single spell, as long as each use targets a different damage type of the spell. So, how this works basically is it now works on all damage types, and it also works like the Scribe's Wizard damage type swapping. So, it can also be used multiple times on a single spell, like, let's say you use Ice Storm, and it allows you to change, and let's say you have Chromatic Orb, so you could change it to where you could use 2 sorcery points, and then make it do lightning and thunder damage, instead of cold and bludgeoning. Then we have 2 new ones. Selfless Spell, which can only be used on spells with a range of self, and you cast the spell on an ally in 30 feet of you instead of yourself. Simple but cool. And then Expansive Spell. The area affected by the spell becomes larger. Expand the radius of a sphere, cylinder, or circle by 5 feet. Increase the size of a cube or cone by 10 feet. The height of a cylinder or wall by 10 feet. And the length of a line or wall by 10 feet. So basically you choose all that apply. So if it's a wall, then it gets 10 feet height, 10 foot length. If it's a cylinder, it gains 10 feet height and 5 foot radius. So, yeah. Simple, but once again, kind of cool and adds to your arsenal. But anyway, that has been the 5.5 Sorcerer. Hope you've enjoyed this look at the class, and hope you stay tuned for the rest of it, as the others are only going to get longer. Because, yeah. Cleric and Wizard are next. In some order. And, yeah, they both have 8 archetypes each. Well, without further ado, see y'all next time. Halo Zoo out.